Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Perfect Days, a Japanese movie from 2023 that stars Koji Yakusho. It was selected as the Japanese entry in the Best International Feature Film category for the Academy Awards. Now, I recently reviewed Korea's submission, Concrete Utopia, which did not get nominated. On the other hand, Perfect Days actually did receive a nomination. But does that mean that it's a better movie? Let's find out. Hirayama, played by Koji Yakusho, works as a public toilet cleaner in Tokyo, and he repeats his very structured, ritualized life every day starting at dawn. He dedicates his free time to his passions for music, which he listens to in his van to and from work, and to his books, which he reads every night before going to sleep. Now, his dreams are shown in flickery, impressionistic sequences at the end of every day, and this kind of repeats throughout the film. So, the most important thing you need to know about Perfect Days is that it can be safely classified as an art house style film. And the specific subgenre designation would probably be everyday living. If I had to describe this film, that's exactly what it is, a film about a man's everyday life. Now, this will automatically disqualify this film for people who like commercial, crowd-pleasing blockbusters. And I do cover quite a few of those types of films on this channel. So if you need your movies to be driven by brisk pacing, strong plotting, and or eventful genre content, like action scenes, comedic set pieces, melodrama, etc., you may have a hard time sitting through this film. It's deliberately paced and relies heavily on repetition and some character interaction. But, on the other hand, if you like movies that showcase the everyday lives of people, there's actually a lot to enjoy here. The first act of the film spends a lot of time showing our protagonist get up in the morning, water his plants, go to work, wash toilets, etc. Very simplistic stuff. But even at its most basic level, I think Perfect Days serves as a relaxing travelogue of urban Japan, just kind of hanging out with a guy who cleans toilets and observes different areas of the city. And we also get a look at the different varieties of public toilets in Tokyo, which are, they're quite varied. So to be honest, I did find the opening act to be the weakest part of the film. It's still pretty good. But it was a bit too repetitive for my liking. Koji, who's a great actor, barely talks at all during this opening act, which I thought was kind of weird. I'm like, are they setting this guy up to be like a mute or something? It seemed kind of weird to me. And then on top of that, the primary side character is this annoying coworker who is not well acted. The actor's name is Tokyo Emoto. I've never been a huge fan of his in just about anything. And he was way too obnoxious for this film. The director was probably trying to bring in someone who would contrast the main character. They should have told this guy to take it down a notch in his performance, though. But, thankfully, the film strengthens significantly after that opening act. Koji actually is allowed to talk with some people during the second and third acts of the film, and the script kind of picks up and accelerates the human interaction that's needed to add some variety to a film like this. I very much enjoyed this film from that point on. And the everyday events had an elevated charm to them, like the little piece of paper that our protagonist finds in one particular toilet, and that's revisited throughout the film. There are some setups in people from earlier on that return and have little payoffs and add more weight to these seemingly mundane, trivial events. We get some subtle backstory to our protagonist at one point through his discussions with some visitors who show up to his home, and there are some subtle dramatic moments that do shine through during the second half. I also enjoyed the sub-themes of music and physical media like cassette tapes, and that's obviously right up my alley. Now, Koji Yakusho is very good here, to no one's surprise. He's still at the top of his game, and it's always nice to see a veteran actor continue to get some interesting roles during the later years of his career. Another standout I saw was the younger girl who shows up midway through the film. Her name is Arisa Nakano, and I thought her interactions with Koji are some of the highlights of the film. Now, Perfect Days, interestingly enough, was directed by Wim Wenders, who is not Japanese. And a few years ago, I reviewed a movie called Samurai Marathon, which was also directed by a non-Japanese director. And during my review of that film, I mentioned that there were some stylistic choices that gave it a different feel from like a typical Japanese movie. One of which was the music, and the same is true for Perfect Days. We get a good dose of like older English language tracks for the soundtrack, and it gives like I said, a different feel to the film. In terms of the direction itself, it was good. Now, the only other Wim Wenders film I've ever seen, and this guy's directed a lot of movies, I only saw one of his other films, and that was Paris, Texas. Highly acclaimed film. I thought it was alright. It was alright. So I was a little apprehensive going into this one, just based on my one other experience with the director, but I liked his direction in this. It was good. And this movie is one that will likely convince me to check out some of his other stuff. So if you are a fan of this director, maybe give me some recommendations in the comments section below, because I'd like to see maybe a few other films from this guy. But yeah, the direction in this is good. There's another thing I need to talk about, and after watching Godzilla -1 fairly recently, I heard that Perfect Days was Japanese Council's nomination, or I guess submission to the Academy Awards, right? Instead of Godzilla. And I was like, I don't know if that was such a good choice, and this is because Godzilla received a significant level of positive reviews and hype online by both critics and fans. However, after watching Perfect Days, I do think it is worthy of submission based on the kinds of films that get this type of award. And it will be interesting to see if it wins or not, because I think I'm going to post this review very close to the Academy Awards date, so we'll have to see if it comes through with the victory or not. I mean, personally, I prefer Godzilla -1 over this, but I did enjoy this film more than Concrete Utopia. It had more interesting character interaction, even though it was perhaps even more deliberately paced. So, yeah. And also, while we're on the topic, I do have 2 videos on this channel, discussion videos, that talk about Japan and South Korea's Oscar submissions over the last 20 years. And I talk about the films they submitted, what films they actually won, and what films I would have submitted in their place, if applicable. So I'll include links to both of those videos in the description box below. But yeah, in summary, I recommend Perfect Days if it sounds like it's up your alley. I told you exactly the type of film it's like. And if you do like this type of film, I think you'll like it. It was playing in select theaters, and there's 1 or 2 in my area that may be still playing it. It may be difficult to find, but even if you can't find it in a theater in your area, I'm pretty sure it's going to get a streaming release at some point in the near future. Usually if a film is nominated for Best International Feature Film, it's going to get a streaming release in the US. So if you've seen it, let me know what you think. And as always, folks, I'll see you next time.